Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. Another car in the garage, another project that is not mine, but I was hired by the owner of the Doris, the diesel Opel, and the Skoda Favorite that was also on the channel to revive this if it is worth it. And I think it is. It looks pretty decent at first glance, that's for sure. This is a 1984 Opel Ascona 1.6 Touring. But not only that, it's a 1.6S, which means that this is a 90 horsepower Opel Ascona. That was pretty decent back in the days, for a car like this at least. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a big project. I think it will be coming up for sale when I'm done with it. So if you are interested in buying one of these, then you should probably get in touch. I don't know about the price just yet. I don't even know if it's possible just yet. But this is the first look. I just had a couple of friends come by to push it in because it's not starting at the moment. There's a lot of small stuff. I need to change all the locks. I need to change the ignition barrel because the keys are gone. Everything should be in the car for that. I need to start up the engine. I need to assess the amount of rust needed. The brakes felt really good when we pushed it in, so I actually don't think that will be a big project. I think that will be all right. I don't know when it was last on the road, but there is a sticker for MOT in 2014, so that's not that long ago. I was close to saying, but that is 10 years ago. Almost 11. Time flies. But that's the MOT, so it probably ran out of MOT 2016. So that's not that long ago. The doors are binding a little bit. Not just a little bit, it's binding a lot. Ah, there we go. It's really stiff. But the interior looks really nice. A very Opel smell, I gotta say. So here we go. Let's take a quick tour around the exterior of the car. Firstly, it looks in really decent condition. The only thing I really see, there is some rust spots, but it's mainly damage that has started to rust. There is some normal occurring rust right there. That's not bad. It looks decent in there. I'm gonna put it on the lift later, but other than that, the overall shape of it is in decent condition. But it has some scratches that have started to rust. There's a scratch right there. But it's not terrible. Another scratch right there. And Touring, I really like stickers like that. That's cool. As mentioned, it has been, it needs new barrels for the key and so on. Back here is also scratches that have started to rust. It needs to be addressed. It's not an MOT fail though, so I don't know. I don't think I will do anything about it unless Jakob wants me to. We're just gonna have to see. And there we have it. Ascona 1.6S. That's nice. And it looks really decent. And the thing is, Jakob just wants to save this car. He doesn't want to keep it for himself, not at least not at the moment. So we think we're just going to fix it up and sell it. But it's a matter of figuring out if it's worth it. I don't know what these goes for. There are not many of them left, I think. It is in really decent condition, probably because it's been protected quite a few times. The interior looks really decent. No tears in the seat or anything. I don't know about the mileage of this car. I don't know if Jakob knows it either, but the counter or the odometer is reading 59,000, but they do a reset at 100, so I don't know if it's 59,000 kilometers or if it's 159 or whatever. But everything looks really decent. There is not a lot of wear on the pedals and anything like that. So it's probably 159, I would say. The dash is cracked quite a lot though. I don't know if that's normal for these models to do, but it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with the amount of mileage. It's more about the amount of sun exposure. So yeah, it looks really, clean and nice in here, to be honest, especially considering it's a car that has been standing for a long time. Yeah, really. I actually like this fabric. It feels kind of nice. In the white box down there should be a complete set of keys and barrels and all that I need to install this, because currently it's been hacked up. This has been attached. This is probably the new one, so it's possible to try to start it. But everything needs to be changed. The keys are gone. And out here should be the engine. This is the 1.6 carb engine. 90 horsepower. It's not bad for that engine size. With this setup, it's a overhead cam. The cam is even operating the fuel pump. I don't know a lot about Opel engines. That could be normal, but it's not something I have seen a lot. There's a cam belt. I wonder if it's interference engine or not, but it would probably be good to change that. I don't think it's an interference. It's an 8 valve, but on the other hand, it is developing some power, so maybe it could be interference. There's a big old carb with automatic choke right there. Yeah, it's missing the air filter box, but it is inside the car. I think what we're going to start with is to just see if the engine cranks over, and if it does, then see if it starts, of course, and if not, then find out why, and then go from there. So let's install a battery. This has not been standing for a lot of years, and I think it has been started for at some point also, so I'm not too worried about it being stuck or anything like that, but we need to get it to fire. Let's see if it turns. Oh yeah, it is turning. And it's sounding decent. Even compression, at least. But it's not starting. It's probably not getting any fuel, and I don't even know if there's fuel in the tank. What is the gauge saying? The gauge is not picking up on any fuel. That could be the gauge itself. It could also just be empty. So I'm gonna disconnect the fuel line and see if it's pushing out any fuel. I do get a smell of old fuel, so it's probably some old fuel in the tank. Hopefully we can make it run on that. I need some light. It seems pretty dry currently. I'm just going to see if I can pump out any fuel, just to get, because there's a diaphragm in there, and if that's all dry, it will probably not pump. Sometimes it just needs some moisture to start working again. So let's see if I can suck fuel through. This is ATF from what I used it for last time, so no fuel yet. So I think I'm just going to add some fuel and see if that makes a difference. I'm just going to attempt to verify my theory that it's empty. The gauge is saying empty, and I cannot suck any fuel through, but there could be fuel in it still. And I think it's so old that I can put in a camera to check. Because if there is a lot of old fuel in there, it would be a waste of new gas to just pour it in. I would have to get the old out. Especially on this, because it's probably not been off the road for many years. That means it's new fuel, newish fuel, and fuel from after 2010 or something like that is just horrible when it gets old. It's not necessarily possible to go through this, because there was problems with fuel theft back then. So they made it impossible to just push something in there. That could be the case, but everything looks very dry at least. I think it is completely empty. I cannot really verify it, but I think it is completely empty. I'm gonna fill in some fuel, and if the worst that can happen is that I have to take that out again and just sacrifice that, but it would probably clean up the old mess a little bit. So I'm going to put some in and try to pump with my my vacuum pump up there once again and see if fuel comes to the engine bay. Should probably keep an eye out for leaks, because being empty, it could mean that something is leaking. So let's just start with this. Let's just try to pump again and see if anything comes up. Should I maybe just try to suck at the other end of the pump, just to rule out that the pump is not allowing me to do it this way? You know what, I'm going to remove it down at the pipe down here. That was easy. So I can change the fuel line, because it's brittle. And I don't like that. Yeah, fuel is coming through. Can you see it? It's quite nasty looking, at least very yellow. I'm just going to try to pump for a bit and see if it gets better. Yeah, I think it's clearing up actually. So maybe it was just that would be very lucky if it was just a bit of old fuel left. I'm just gonna do the smell test. Yeah, it smells like something that could combust. And then I'm gonna find some fresh fuel hose to fit to this. Will this do? Yeah, that's pretty decent. So now I should be able to suck fuel through the pump up here now. Let's just try for fun. There we go, fuel is coming. Still looking a bit yellow, but I think it'll be all right. Just gonna quickly pull this out. That didn't happen quickly. But now the pump is wet, so I presume it will start pumping, and we'll probably just need a bit of cranking. I'm just going to put the exhaust fan on in case it works. So let's see and keep an eye out. Oh, you can't see if fuel is actually pumping because it's not see-through, of course. But let's just see. I'm going to crank it for 5 seconds and then take a break and see what happens. And taking a break. Could take some time to fill that ball, especially if there's issues with the needle seat in the carb. Just to not be too hard on the starter, let's try to prime some fuel into the system. Because there is also the chance that there's no spark on the system. So now I'm just gonna put some fuel straight into the opening. If nothing happens, then it will probably be ignition related. And just that fuel could also kickstart the rest of the pump. So let's try. This is going to be exciting. Oh yeah! Yeah, it's not pumping yet. Or at least it's not filling up the carb yet. Okay, so I've started to suspect that something was wrong with the pump, and then I just removed it. But then I realized it could also just be the float valve being stuck. Or something else, but I cannot push anything into this, so of course the pump won't pump any fuel in. I guess it's carb related. I think I need to take off the top of the carb. I wonder how difficult that is going to be. But I think it's the carb. I actually don't think it's a fuel pump. Anyway, it makes more sense that it's that. Yeah, fuel is coming. It's working fine. So unless the cam is completely grinded away and not really pushing that, it's got to be something else. And I'm pretty sure it's carb related. I'm gonna try to remove the top of this carb. I guess this carb is put onto a rubber base because, as you can see, the entire thing moves when I push on it. I guess that's the case. Can I just pull the entire thing off? Fuel is coming out now, so That tells me that the valve was probably closed and then opened when I pulled it up, which it's supposed to do actually. The float is at least not attached correctly right now, but I think it was my own doing. It's lying on its side now. So I just made sure that everything looks correctly. Sorry, I didn't film that very nicely, but I can now check for the operation of that valve. By attaching this, I should be able to push fluid. I should be able to blow through it right now. And when this goes up, I shouldn't be able to. But it seemed to work, but there was quite a bit of resistance, so I wonder if it's a bit clogged, the inlet in there. Seems to work right now at least. Let's put this back over this. This seems to be alright. Let's put everything back together. I think there was something in the valve. Probably need a complete clean, but it's not really. I'm just interested in firing it up and seeing how it runs and making it come back to life before I start a strip down, if that is necessary, off the carb and so on. Because very often it's my experience that stuff like this comes back to life, or the problems are not showing themselves before a bit. Of course, it would be better to fix everything before I even start the engine, so that everything was brand new. But I don't enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I like to work together with the car, not just take over the entire thing. I don't know if that makes any kinds of sense at all, but it's just how I roll. So I'm just gonna put this back together and install the fuel pump again also. And then I really expect it to just work actually. It got misfire. I don't think that's fuel related. There's definitely a misfire. It's definitely a misfire. I'm just gonna check all the ignition coils that they are connected right. One of them is not the same as the other ones. That could be a concern. That definitely felt like misfires more than a fuel starvation. It could also just be this. Let's just try to clean that up and see if it makes a difference. Because in here, it looks quite dirty. You could probably need a new one of these, but I'm just gonna scrape the post down there clean and then try again. Because that is definitely not the greatest connection down there. I think this car could use a good service. That could maybe fix a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's not great, but it's a little bit better. And if it makes any difference, and I'm pretty sure it's just in a need of a service. Nah, it's still running on 2, maybe 3, but not all 4, that's for sure. I am gonna go buy a new distributor cap and rotor, and Jakob actually put some spare parts in the trunk of this, and back there is spark plugs and wires, so I don't need those, but I'm gonna change that. But I'm gonna start with just the rotor and the cap, because I think that's the problem, and I really enjoy to find the problem and not just change a lot of parts. The leads, one of them are different than the others, so that could also be an issue, but I just want to change one thing at a time and then see what works. Back from the shops with one of these, and one of these. Let's change those to begin with and see how it runs. It is really looking bad down here. I can show you a bit closer when I have transferred all plugs to the correct position. I actually think the rotor is good enough also, but take a look at this. I don't know how well it picks up, but it is really not looking great on the posts down there. So off with that. Also going to change the rotor. This is going on. And then I'm just going to try to start it up again and see if it runs any different. I'm surprised that actually did not help one bit. There is still a spark plug not firing. I think it could be many things. And just because I really like to find the issue, I'm gonna see if I can find the problem before changing all the plugs and wires. Let's start with the one that is different than all the rest of the plugs. Or the wire is different, I mean. Let's put this one in. This down here. Then I'm going to crank it and check if this blinks. Yep, it blinks. So let's try the next one. It could of course be the spark plug that is not working. But right now I'm just suspecting maybe a wire to be bad. Let's just try that. Also sparking. Also sparking. Also. There's also the possibility, of course, that the wires are mixed up. Let's just change the wires real quick anyway, and then in the end change the spark plugs. I'm just going to change one at a time. Yes, it's silly not to just to change the spark plugs now that I'm in here, but I just really enjoy verifying the problem before I just change stuff. And if this makes it run nice, then I know it was spark wires related. I noticed that this looks like this, but the last one looks different, so there is a possibility that there is a resistance issue in one of the wires that doesn't pick up on my spark tester but will pick up on the spark plug. But I don't know. I'm actually unsure if I messed the order up there. One of them fell off, and I'm slightly unsure where it was supposed to live. So this is the last spark plug, and it definitely looks different than the rest of them. But it's also suppression. I don't think anything is wrong with that. The spark plugs, though, they do look really bad. So let's just give it a go with the new cables. Spark plugs next, but I'm just gonna check to make sure that the wires are not messed up, because it could also be the case. So just to be sure, I'm just gonna check those, the firing order. Okay, so according to my Haynes, which is not on the Astra but on a similar engine, so I'm pretty sure it's the same, it tells me that cylinder number 1 is this, and cylinder number 1 is supposed to be the first to fire, which is this one, and it goes anti-clockwise. The next to fire is supposed to be cylinder number 3, it's this one down here. That's cylinder number 2. And the next was supposed to fire is cylinder number 4. That's correct. So it seems as though number 2 and number 3 is mixed up. Whether I mixed that up or it has been mixed up all the time, I'm a little bit unsure of, because I did drop one of the wires and the other one fell out at the same time. If it suddenly runs perfectly, I'm pretty sure that they have been wrong all along. I can maybe see it on the footage actually. Let's try now. It needs a blip of throttle to start. No, it's the same, so I probably just messed up the wires as well. Let's change the spark plug and see if that makes any difference. That's the first one, very black. Second one, wet and black. First one was not wet, very wet. You might notice that we have two different spark plugs so far. One of them is General Motors, maybe the original ones, and 2 of them are NGK-R with the resistors in them. And the last one is a General Motors also, and very wet. So, yeah, there's a difference at least. And they are all wet except number 1, which is not wet. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm just gonna put in some new ones. They come pre-gapped, but I'm gonna check if they are correct. They are. So I'm gonna install the first one and the plug. The thing is, you never know when you get a car like this. I don't know if it was driving well when it was put away, or if it was put away because of some problem, or if someone has been trying to fix a problem. And that is difficult, because I don't know if someone has tried to mess with the timing and the mixture and the valves, and I just don't know. But I am just presuming that it was running, and then I'm gonna go from there. Otherwise I will get very confused very quickly. I don't really see any signs of anything being messed with. Yes, I could do a compression test now that the spark plugs were out. But as mentioned, when I crank it, it just sounds perfectly uniform. So if there's low compression, I think it will be on all of them. And I really doubt that. 4 new plugs. So now I really expect it to run right on all 4. Otherwise, there is something more sinister wrong. Oh yeah, it was the spark plugs once again. Yeah, it's idling very low, but it could be because it's missing an air filter and all that. But and running on old fuel, mixed old fuel maybe. But we got all 4 running now. That's nice. I think it really would benefit from completely fresh fuel, or at least more fresh fuel added. But it sounds decently enough for me to think that this engine will be just fine. It needs a service though, so I'm not gonna do anything more now. Another good lesson for me, because this is the second time in a couple of months that a car had a misfire issue due to spark plugs, and I have a tendency to neglect spark plugs, and they are really important for obvious reasons. One of them was dead. I don't know which of them, but right now it's running on all 4 again. Before I think it was running on 2 or 3. Now it's back to running on all 4. It doesn't really want to. It's idling a little bit low still, but I think that's fuel related. I'm not going to do anything else because I need to inspect the rest of the car to make sure it's savable, and now I can move it in and out of the garage because the engine is working. This engine needs a service. It needs a new oil, of course, filter, cam belt, and other stuff, fresh fuel, of course. But I won't do anything else on this now. Next up, I want to lift the car up in the air to check the underneath. Hopefully it's not too rusty. I don't think it is, but I don't know. It looks decent from outside at least, but sometimes looks can really be deceiving. So let's lift it up and check. Okay, so now it's the exciting bit. Let's take a look at the underneath so I can decide whether this is savable or not. I think it really needs to be very rotten to not be worth saving, because it just doesn't seem to be very bad. The springs and all that is looking nice. I'm not gonna go completely crazy with this checkup. I'm not gonna check for wear in the I'm not gonna do the usual suspension checks and so on, because that can all be saved, that's for sure. It's just a matter of checking the condition of the metal. Oh, it actually really looks nice. It looks really, really nice. I'm starting to want this car for myself. Maybe I should just tell Jakob that it's completely unsavable and I should just throw it in the bin, and I can do that for him. I just need the registration papers. That's very important. Well, wow. This is really nice. This is really, really nice. Remember the other Opel that I also have that I have to fix up at some point? This is looking like a brand new car down here. No, not a brand new car, but it is really, really decent. The exhaust looks a bit tatty, but springs and the mounts and the cross member up there looks nice. There's a little bit of rust right there. Nothing to worry about too much. Wow, it looks nice. I don't really have to see much more than this to know that this car is definitely savable without spending too much money. I wonder if that hose up there is important. It seems to miss a hose right there. It's got to be some kind of breeder. It's not connected to anything. Well, anyway, I'm gonna have to figure that out. Oh, there's our anti-roll bar back here. Fancy, fancy. What? This is in really great condition. There's even still a sticker on the exhaust. I really wonder how many kilometers this one got on the clock. It seems very nice. Very, very nice kept. I'm actually having a bit of a hard time believing that this... I was just told... I was actually told that this car has been on number plates for 34 years, the same number plates, until it was taken off the road in 2016 or something like that. And if this has been on the road since it was brand new, I almost can't believe how nicely it looks. But of course it could have been kept inside and not driven a whole lot. And also it seems that it has gotten a lot of rust protection. And yes, there is rust. This is probably the worst part of it, this right there. But it's really not bad. It's not even an MOT fail, this, so that's pretty nice. Oh, that's probably the other side of that line. So that's the breather hose that's missing. The brakes seems to stick a little bit. No big surprise though. Wow, decent. Why are my project cars not like this? This is way easier. Anyway, this was the first look at the Opel Ascona. It looks really nice. It's definitely savable without breaking the bank. I got the engine running somewhat decently. Underneath those small issues in the engine, it sounds quite healthy. It needs an oil change, it needs a valve, adjustment, it needs cam belt, some more fresh fuel. There's still some old fuel in it. I thought it was completely empty, but I think there is some old fuel still. Otherwise, the fuel that I pumped through up there wouldn't have been that yellow. So even though it runs on it, it will run a lot better once the fresh fuel reaches the carburetor. That's for sure. I might even just drain the old out. Yeah, then I will just waste the fuel I just put in On the other hand, that would probably clean up all the old fuel. I think this car is definitely savable, and I also think it should be saved because there are not many left of these either. And it's a pretty cool little motor, and it would be a great classic car for someone who wants something that is actually usable, but still fun and old enough to be a classic. Anyway, oh, it needs one more thing. Because in my opinion, one of the most important things on a cool old classic car is to fit one of these. And no, you cannot buy these, but I do send them to my Patreons. This is one of the most important things on a classic car. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can support me and get your own sticker on Patreon, and see you in the next one.